Hello everyone, I'm Sharpedo43 once again, and you know what this is? Well, if the Silmar Sylveon's team doesn't say anything, obviously, well, just know that we are gonna be going back to doing Pokemon Draft Leagues, like for reals this time. I say this because, I have been showcasing Wi-Fi matches for Draft Leagues already, but I think I've already mentioned that those were past leagues that happened last year, basically. And I was just late in showcasing them for some reason, which is what usually happens with me a lot of the time. I usually upload whenever I feel like it. However, this league I think is gonna require me to at least upload more consistently. So yeah, but yeah. So obviously, because we're doing draft leagues, obviously this is gonna be my overview for this draft, obviously. And as for what league we're doing, it's a brand new league actually that started this year. So let it be known that this is going to be the first league of the year, because I haven't done any draft leagues this year actually. The ones that I showcased on my channel, as mentioned already, I'm going to sound like a broken record saying this, but they were draft leagues that were done last year. So obviously those don't count. Even if I showcased them, even if they were the first leagues I showcased in this year, they're not the first ones I did. So yeah, but the league that we're going to be doing here is actually called the PAC, which from what I understand stands for the Pokemon All-Star Competition, or we can also just call it the PAC League, which in my opinion sounds kind of engaging in my opinion. But yeah, so this league I was actually invited to do it, and I was actually, unlike most leagues that usually just invite people out of bias, this league actually was a lot more practical in its recruitment for participants and whatnot, since they actually invited me because supposedly, I don't know how many people actually know about the Draft League NL website, the one that Automatic made, but supposedly that website has a ranking system for how well any participant does in a draft league, I think overall. And according to the commissioner, I actually had a relatively high score, so they actually invited me to participate, and I said sure. I was skeptical at first, since I've said many times that I've not really wanted to do a draft league in Pokemon Sword and Shield, just because I wasn't a fan of how 20-minute timers were a thing, obviously. And I kind of felt like this league might have been no different. However, it's not actually the case. I'll get more into that in a bit, but just know that I actually decided to ultimately participate. And yeah, because obviously I figured this might be the only time I get invited to a league, because again, I've said this thousands of times, but it's not every day I get invited to a draft league. So I definitely had to take up on the opportunity. However, this league, unlike the CBDO, which was another league that I actually did for Pokemon Sword and Shield, this one's actually gonna require me to use what they call the LAN mode, which I think I've mentioned briefly on a couple occasions. It's supposedly the other format of battling that isn't the 20-minute timer, which after doing my first week match, I actually come to realize that maybe, just maybe, the LAN mode isn't as bad as I thought it would be. Because I actually was like, I didn't like the LAN mode on for many reasons. Because I've heard about how unreliable it is when it comes to connectivity, and I've also noticed that you can't change the music in that. So, which for me, music is everything. So obviously, it's one of the biggest pet peeves of me when it comes to the LAN mode. And this was something I didn't realize till later, because I think it's been like talked around. Like, I've heard murmurings that the LAN mode consisted of a 10 to 30 minute timer. So I was like, huh? Like, I wasn't sure what that meant, honestly. So but I'll say it right now, since this is the draft review and not any Wi-Fi match that was done like, I don't know, prematurely or anything like that, that the LAN mode match, they supposedly consist of 10 minutes, like 10 minutes. But this was something I didn't know for my first week match, but supposedly each opponent has their own 10-minute timer, and supposedly based on whose timer runs out first, that's how the winner's determined or something like that. It's kind of weird, honestly, but it's after experiencing it, I can kind of see why people think it's a lot better than the 20-minute timer, honestly, even if it's only 10 minutes, because it kind of doesn't feel that way, honestly. But anyway, so yeah, PAC League. So obviously that's the league that I was invited to participate in, and obviously I think we started drafting, I believe, like on my birthday, which was funny actually. But this draft review is gonna be somewhat brief, I guess, or maybe because let it be known that when the draft started, I kind of didn't really think too much about what I was gonna pick, honestly, just because obviously I was like doing Smash at the time, and obviously that kind of took up a lot of my time, and not to mention thinking space to actually, you know, like think on what I'm gonna actually draft and whatnot. But I did draft some decent stuff, I guess. So like I guess standard, but it's stuff that I feel can possibly work. But without further ado, we're gonna get into the draft right now. Like I said, it's gonna be brief descriptions of what I picked, and maybe explain as to why I think I got it. Because again, I kind of don't know why. Like, I just picked all this stuff just because I just had to, obviously. Because I couldn't just spend all day thinking about the matter, you know, because I only have so much time. But yeah, so obviously these I actually got like the second pick in this match. So, or this draft, I actually got like the second pick, because we're still doing the snake order format, by the way, when it comes to drafting. And I actually got second, I think. So that's actually good. That's kind of the only slight motivating factor that actually kind of got me into at least having some idea of what I want. And what I decided to get was the Dragapult here, which is a mon that I've actually used in a couple Wi-Fi matches, and I figured it looks kind of good on paper, so maybe in draft format this could be kind of useful. It's a dragon type, and it's a ghost type as well, so it's a spin blocker, and it's fast, like really fast. It's faster than Zeraora even, which is kind of cool, because I could really use mons that are faster than those damn mons that are prevalent in draft leagues because of how fast they are and how powerful they are. And Dragapult is actually a pretty good mix attacker too, because his attack stat is really good, and so is his special attack. But yeah, I think other than that, like, I don't know, because again, I really didn't put much thought into it, but I did think that Dragapult looked cool as well, so maybe that was another thing that had a lot to do with why I actually picked Dragapult. But yeah, so also the way the mons here are like ranked and stuff, like, I kind of don't know. It's supposedly tier based, but supposedly this pick actually goes in my like free picks, because you know how the tier based format usually has like a number of tiers, and then you have like 3 or 4 free picks. Well, for some reason I picked Dragapult, and that somehow counted as my free pick, which is kind of weird. I don't know why that's the case, but I guess it's part of the format, which, by the way, I actually don't know how to describe it, honestly. It sounds complicated, and I'm not really one to actually look into the format of the draft leagues I do. I just do them, honestly, without questioning anything, just because I mean, I do these matches for fun and just to, you know, get into some badgers. Badgers. Get into some battles, damn it. I'm an idiot. But yeah, okay, so yeah, that's Dragapult for you. Second round, yeah, we got Azumarill, obviously, because Azumarill is a fairy type, and you know, Dragapult's a dragon type. You know, we're trying to get that fairy dragon steel core going here. And I was actually gonna try to get Sylveon, but again, Sylveon gets taken like the very first round. Like, is Sylveon even that good in this game? Like, I don't know. I felt like after the nerf that I got from Gen 7, that it wasn't going to be as good, but apparently it's still good enough to be drafted round 1, I think it was, or was it the very same round that I picked Azumarill? I don't know. But they got him soon, so because of that, I decided to get Azumarill. I didn't want to get Gardevoir again, because, like, come on, man. How many times have I used Gardevoir? Like, I like Gardevoir. Like, I like it a lot, but obviously, I've been using it way too much, and I kind of wanted to just use something different, obviously, and Azumarill was all that came to mind. It's a pretty good mon anyways. Pretty good physical attacker, and obviously it's got decent coverage actually, because obviously it's weak to a lot of things, but it hits really hard. Obviously it's got a useful attack and knockoff as well, got a priority move as well, so there's a lot of good stuff with Azumarill. Again, I didn't really like think it through like that much, but again, I just picked it because there was no other good fairy type that I wanted. I don't know if Clefable was on the table, but I kind of didn't want to get Clefable, because remember what happened in the last league where I used Clefable. It really just took a lot of the timer. Although obviously the timer in this game is gonna, or in this league is gonna be a lot different, but I don't know, man. I just didn't want to repeat history basically, so I just went with Azumarill. But yeah, so that's my second pick, and my third pick here is actually gonna be Skarmory again. Which, yeah, this was another one that, along with Clefable in the last league for CBDL, was kind of like a time consumer. But I feel like here in this format, it might not be different, because I forgot to mention another thing about the land mode, is that it has what they call the chess timer, which is obviously the timer that consists of 10 minutes. but supposedly the animations are not actually taken into account when counting down the timer, obviously. So that's probably where Skarmory could benefit in a way, but obviously not entirely. Like, I cannot stall and think, basically, or anything like that. In fact, I think stalling is actually is against the rules here, although I actually don't know how that's gonna work, since if I were to try to timer stall and my opponent is actually savvy enough to be mashing buttons, I'd be the one losing, though. That's what I understood after my first week match, by the way. But anyways, yeah, Skarmory is the usual. Very bulky mon, steel type, resistances. Like, it has a lot of resistances because it's a steel type. It's immune to ground types, which is good because there's a lot of earthquake users. And also, it's a good hazard setter. Phaser as well, so that if anything sets up and I got nothing on my team to like kind of get around it, this thing can just kind of negate its stat increases and just phase it out and whatnot. Got recovery as well. So yeah, other than that, there's not much to say about Skarmory. This was actually a pretty like vanilla pick, just because again I wasn't really thinking when I actually came up with this draft. But here we go. Fourth pick, it's gonna be Crocodile. Crocodile is a mon that is actually really good, and this one I actually kind of felt like I needed to get because I wanted to get something that's immune to psychic moves, because I've been getting tackled by a lot of psychic attack users for some reasons. But yeah, also it's a ground type, so it's got electrical immunity as well, because right now I kind of have a weakness to electric moves, with Azumarill and Skarmory being both weak to electric moves and whatnot. So I feel like Crocodile would have been ideal here, and it's a dark type, so that means that knockoff is actually going to be stab in this case, which is actually really useful, because, you know, I could really knock off a lot of mons. Oh, and that's another, I forgot to mention another thing about this league. No Gmax mons, and no Dynamaxing, obviously, so we don't have to worry about that. Although obviously I don't know what that has to do with knocking off, but it just kind of reminded me, I guess, because I forgot to mention that this league is not like one of those, it's like a league that has no gimmicks. So no Z moves, not that it can in Sword and Shield, no Mega Evolution, not that it can in Sword and Shield, and no Dynamaxing or Gmaxing. Like, this league is just literally as if we were playing a draft league in Generation 4 kind of a thing, you know, where there was no crazy shit. But anyways, digression aside, what's it called? Crocodile. Crocodile, as mentioned before, psychic immunity, electrical immunity, knockoff user, rock setter, and it's a Moxie user, which is good, especially for a league that has a battle format that kind of requires you to mash buttons, so, and can get matches done, you know. But yeah, that's all there is to say about Crocodile. Now we're gonna get into round 5. Now, round 5 is a favorite of mine. God knows it is. It's going to be Roserade. Roserade is, I don't know, man. Whenever I use this mon in draft format, it just does stuff. Even if sometimes I don't win matches, this thing does a lot of things, like, for me. It hits really hard with its good special attack stat. It can sometimes take special hits and then retaliate with powerful attacks. And this thing, despite its frailness, does have a lot of utility. It's got aromatherapy, so it can be a cleric, or it could be a hazard setter because it can get spikes and toxic spikes if I so desire to use it. And it's got its own recovery in synthesis, obviously. So it's got a lot of stuff going for it. Plus, it's a good offensive typing. It's got its own ways of recovering while attacking in the form of Giga Drain. It's pretty good. And not to mention, Roserade also just looks cool. Like, dude, if there was a Pokemon I'd want to be, it'd probably be Roserade, honestly. But yeah, so that's Roserade. I think it's pretty self-explanatory, because remember, I didn't put a lot of thought into these selections, but I just figured Roserade because Roserade looks cool. I already mentioned that. But yeah, now the 6th pick. This one I think I actually did put a little bit of thought into it, and it's actually Heracross. Now Heracross, I was actually recalling when I used it in I think it was the ICPL. I don't remember if it was the ICPL or was it the CVDO back in Gen 7. But I remember using this thing and it actually put in a lot of work, actually. Like, it actually went a long way. Either that, or I don't know if I used this in draft now that I think about it. I feel like I have, but either that or it wasn't in Wi-Fi battles. But I remember something good about Heracross, and it was particularly the fact that it has the Guts ability, which means it could just hit things really hard right out of the gate while being able to switch up its moves without having to set anything up, obviously. Because if you pack it with a Flame Orb, obviously Guts procs after the first turn, and then you can just start running House from there. And then there's also the fact that it's another Moxie user, which means that if I run its Scarf and I KO something, I get an attack boost, and if the opponent has nothing to do, Heracross in, they're done for. I said foe. Well, yeah. So And Heracross also got knockoff as well, which is pretty good. Like, any knockoff user is welcome on this team, honestly, because I could really use that, honestly. One of the things that always puts me like on tilt when I face somebody is not knowing what items they could have that could try to get around whatever the heck I try to do in a match and whatnot. And I feel like the more knockoff users, the merrier. I think this is the first time I actually have like more than one knockoff user too. I have like, what, 3 in Azumarill and Crocodile, and now Heracross. Like, not bad. Like, my team on paper looks, so far, it looks like it could be pretty good, but again, I don't even know. It might be bad. In fact, it looks kind of frail for the most part. Like, the only bulky thing I have here is Skarmory. Everything else could very well get KO'd in one hit or something. So, but again, this game, Sword and Shield, is, you know, requires you to kind of play your matches fast anyway, so I guess it's good that I have what look like glass cannons, but I don't know. But yeah, that's Heracross. Now, round 7. This is a classic, I'd say at this point, but it's Lantern. I actually decided to use Lantern because I wanted to add more electrical immunities, and Lantern has that ability to, you know, absorb electrical attacks. And not only electrical attacks, but also water attacks. So if something like Keldeo comes around, we can just freaking absorb its water attacks and whatnot. And we'd be fine. Like, basically any powerful water attacker can just get water moves absorbed, and it'll force it to go for other options. Lantern, I think, is also, like, it just has utility as well. It can pivot, which is actually really, really useful, because I think right now, as it is, I don't think I have a pivoter. I have Skarmory as a phaser. Oh, actually, Dragapult can also pivot, now that I think about it, yeah. So I have 2 pivoters in that way, but obviously Lantern's going to have Volt Switch, which means there could be some immunities, but obviously I'll be able to know when they actually have it and when not, and when to use it, obviously, because of that. But, yeah, other than that, Lantern is just kind of bulky as well. Like, it can take hits well, and then it can just pivot slowly into something that actually can attack and whatnot. It's kind of like just a pivoter, if anything. That can also take attacks, obviously. And I feel like it can do its own things if there's something that actually doesn't check it very well. But obviously that's up for interpretation. But I just picked Lantern because, again, I just felt like this could be a really, really useful mon. It's also another bulky mon too, I feel, because this one actually plays a more passive role, kind of like Skarmory, honestly, because so far a lot of my picks have been mostly offensive due to the nature of this league, or this game, obviously, in general, when it comes to Wi-Fi battling. But yeah, round 8 here, this is another mon. I think this is a new one, actually, that I've actually never used. Oh no, actually, I think I did draft it once, but I actually never used it because I never found the need to use it. But here I feel like I may need to use it, and it's actually Flareon. Now, the reason I got Flareon is just because I kind of wanted something that can resist fire, because right now the team that I have, yeah, there's a few resistances in Lantern and Skarmory, but remember that a lot of fire types can also have grass moves in the form of Solar Beam or something, or even Energy Ball. So I felt like I needed something that can resist fire and can also take other attacks from it, and I felt like Flareon was like a nice, I guess, bill fit or whatever the hell you call it. But yeah, Flareon also has the immunity to fire type moves as well, like, because it also has Guts, I think. But it also has the immunity to fire types. It has, I think it's Flash Fire that it has. Yeah, and it can actually not only absorb fire moves, but also get a boost like in fire moves, basically. So if I go for Flare Blitz after getting Flash Fired, it's going to hit hard even while resisting it, which is kind of cool. Also, Flareon also has its own, like, momentum shifting capabilities. I don't know how to say it, man, but it's something like that, in the form of Baton Pass, basically. It's got priority in the form of Quick Attack as well. Its attack set is pretty good, which makes Quick Attack kind of like useful when it comes to using priority moves and whatnot. And its special defense is actually really, really good, which I could really use right now, because I think right now the only stuff I have, like, in terms of bulk is mostly defensive, with the Spadef being kind of lacking. So this thing could be like a specially defensive, while at the same time offensive type of mon. That, and it can get Will-O-Wisp as well, which is something that I feel like I could use against this team. But although I think Dragapult can also get Will-O-Wisp now. Well, there's 2 methods, obviously. I cannot be predictable at the same time, so it's always good to have some variety. So yeah, I think that's all I gotta say about Flareon. Because yeah, Flareon was just another mon that I picked because I felt like I needed a fire type, obviously, just to have something that can resist fire type mons. But yeah, so round 9. Round 9. Now here's the part of the draft where it gets kind of weird. But supposedly the way the mons are ranked here, they kind of force you to pick mons of a lower tier or less, and to the point where a lot of the mons are like not even fully evolved, like they're actually pre-evolved mons, which is kind of crazy. And I think this Pyukumuku thingy was actually It was like in the lowest tier. But I think I got it as a free pick though, just because I drafted like very, very expensive stuff earlier. So it kind of left me with little room for something good, obviously, in the end. And I decided to go with Pyukumuku because, yeah, Pyukumuku sucks, honestly, in my opinion. It's not that good. But a lot of the mons that are that I could get right now pretty much suck, honestly. So I figured if I'm gonna get a shitty mon, I might as well get something like Pyukumuku, which if you kill it, it can get some damage with the innards out ability. And this thing can also pivot as well, like, so if I just throw it out and then I just see an unideal matchup, I just baton pass as well. Like, it's another pivoting option at the very least. Like, if it's gonna be a shit mon, at least have something, obviously. And I feel like Pyukumuku does have that in this, going for it, basically. The only downside to getting Pyukumuku, though, is that this pretty much makes it so that I now have 3 water types, obviously. But again, the chances of me bringing out the Pyukumuku are very remote at this point, given the nature of this league, in terms of competition and whatnot. But yeah, that's all I gotta say about Pyukumuku. There's not really much to say about when it comes to Pyukumuku, because since Pyukumuku's moveset is actually kind of limited, I feel. But it's very effective, obviously, nonetheless. But round 10 here. This is another mon that I, as mentioned earlier, it's gonna start getting to the point where we're just starting to pick non-evolved mons, like not fully evolved mons. And Boulder's another one of them. The reason why I picked Boulder was just because I think it'd be good if we just have something that can kind of resist fire in a different way as well, and have different resistances. Because Flareon, yeah, resists fire, but is weak to rocks, whereas Boulder, I don't think really gives a fuck much about rocks. It takes it neutrally. It's still weak to ground type of moves, obviously. But obviously, it's just a rock type, and I don't know, I guess it's another rocker or something. Like, I don't really know what to say about Boulder, because I don't really use, not even Gigalith, honestly. I just don't use this mon at all. But I just picked it because it's a rock type, obviously, and I don't have a rock type on my team, so I figured why not. And yeah, so round 11, this is the final round of the draft, and I decided to just get Curlia, because again, there is just no choice, honestly. And I decided to just get a mon that reminds me of another mon that I like in Gardevoir. Not to mention, I think as a kid I actually did like a lot Curlia a lot over Gardevoir, but that was before I realized that competitive was a thing, obviously. So I guess I didn't really care at the time. But again, this is just basically a memento of Gardevoir, if anything. But I don't think I'm gonna use Curlia, honestly, in this league, just because, again, it's not really that good. I mean, I guess it has stuff like Will-O-Wisp still. And I think it still can get, what's that move, Destiny Bond and all that stuff. Like, I guess it can do some funny things here and there, but it's not gonna do much, honestly. It's just gonna die more often than that. But again, I just picked it because, why not? Like, I didn't really have much of an option anyway. Like, I didn't see anything else in the lower tiers that I wanted anyways. So I just went with Curly, honestly. But yeah, that's gonna be the draft. Like I said before, I didn't really put much thought into drafting these mons because I just really didn't feel like it, honestly. And I was preoccupied with Smash, so I didn't really like think too much of it. I did try to pick what was ideal, but also just something that, you know, like, I didn't want to overthink it. Usually when I do draft leagues, I overthink a lot of times and just pick stuff, but I have to like put in a lot of thought into it. But this is like the first time I actually don't really think too much about it and just kind of like just go with whatever, honestly, whatever's available. I think the only mon that I wanted that I couldn't get was Sylveon, but other than that, it's like whatever, I guess. Like, everything else was just like, I didn't really care. But yeah, so that's gonna be it for this overview, obviously, of my draft for season 1 of the PAC League. We can finally now start to showcase these matches, and maybe even now we can finally be all cut up and whatnot. So yeah, I'm just thinking and seeing if there's anything else I gotta say on the matter. I guess not. Oh yeah, like maybe this was a league that I actually, because it's the first one of the year, I actually wanted to draft Sharpedo, but just given how it let me down in the CB deal, I kind of just felt like it wasn't gonna work out, honestly. And plus, it would be a 4th water type after picking Azumarill and Lantern, which Lantern has more, I hate to say it, but it has more viability for my draft than Sharpedo did. So obviously I could not go with Sharpedo in this sense. Otherwise I would have drafted him, but I had to find like a team that could make it work. And as mentioned thousands of times already, I didn't really think much about this draft when I was, you know, making the selection process and whatnot. So yeah, so rip that, obviously. But yeah, so I'm gonna be looking forward to this league, obviously. Hopefully history doesn't repeat itself and it just like estira la pata, because that would just suck, obviously. Like, how many times am I gonna be doing these leagues and they're gonna be like some bullshit going on, whether it be participants dropping out or the league just collapsing out of nowhere. I don't know. Hopefully this doesn't happen here, but if it does, well, obviously my luck sucks. But yeah, anyways, thank you all for watching this draft review, obviously, and stay tuned for the matches when they come, obviously. For now, just take it easy and have yourselves a damn good one.